fee and then adjust that for each HOA complex. The HOA complex is a $10.8 billion industry in the state of California. You are not assessing the higher complexes adequately. Do you really think that if they have a leak in a 100-unit complex, $9.70 would cover something like that? Okay, so what I'd encourage is establish a unit fee and then adjust the HOA schedule based on that. That particular information of how many units are in a given HOA resides in your office, and it would be pretty simple to determine that based on your revenue. And from what I'm hearing on your fact that you're raising fees, if you have a $10.8 billion industry, that may be part of your solution. Okay? That's essentially it. Thank you.
Can you explain what, on some things we have different categories for size, presumably because it takes more work if it's larger. This is the first I've actually focused on or heard someone talk about HOA fees.
I've been in communication with Mr. Conti for the past year, and I've also directed him to the Central Coast Regional Water Quality Control Board. The Water Board, we assess WDR fees based on the type of permit under which the discharge is regulated, which is based on the type of discharge that flows from the facility. Facilities are assigned ratings based on the potential harm or the threat to water quality complexity and the complexity of the discharge of the waters to the state. Mr. Conte has a 3C, which is the lowest level complexity rating. And he also has a low flow discharge, which basically means he qualifies for the 50% discount. So he's getting the lowest fee. Also, what the regional board says is that his facility is anticipated to connect to the Los Osos water recycling facility in 2016, which at time a WDR permit and the associated fee will no longer be required. So again, his permit is based off the potential harm and the threat to complexity, regardless of type of facility, whether it's a group townhome, a single family home, or a mobile home. He's assigned the threat to complexity level.
And so the size is taken into account but it's one of a suite of factors, and the regional board assesses each according to that. It's not just a flat fee for all HOAs in that setting. Okay, good.
That's correct. I mean, frankly, we have gone to some lengths to come up with different fee amounts for many different programs. I added them up. I had occasion to do so a couple of years ago when we were challenged on our fee structure, and there's over 100 different types of fees that different entities may pay, depending, as David said, on what type of discharge it is. In some cases, it's based in part on what the regional board assigns as the threat and complexity, which is a surrogate for how much time they spend regulating that facility.
Right.
We certainly could come up with an entirely new category of different size homeowner associations. At some point, I think we would recommend that we're getting so far into the weeds that further slicing and dicing the different types of discharges that we regulate is perhaps sort of counterproductive in the sense that there aren't that many significant differences based just on the size of the homeowner association.
Thank you. That's helpful to me. Next, we have Roger Holmes, also from the Los Osos. But you don't actually get 2 bites at the apple.
I don't get 2 bites at the apple.
No. No, somebody else could step, like Danny could come speak for you, but you couldn't. Unless you have prepared remarks that are.
Yes, I do.
Why not? I'll give you a minute, if you don't mind, just because there are a lot of people here.
I have statistics here on 3 complexes in Los Osos. One has 22 units, one has 18, and one has 12, and they're all being charged the same fee. And as an engineer, one of the things that needs to be considered is the amount of discharge. More units, you have more discharge. If you have a leak, you're going to get more potential leak, and that's not being considered in your hazardous rating. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, Ms. Brown, California Citrus Mutual.
Thank you. I won't go into the weeds on a lot of those details, but I was hoping to show the amount that we're seeing the permit fees increasing over the years. And some of these hefty increases happened before the board was completely based on a fee structure. And so that was something that I was hoping to illuminate. So at this time, some packing houses that are functioning on a seasonal basis are paying over $10,000 for their fee. And so that's a rather significant amount. And so we're not seeing, as these fees are going up, this isn't a result of any changing of the requirements that they're needing to comply with. It isn't a result of any penalties. And so therefore, it's hard to see the justification. And we're really just kind of looking for transparency and how the money collected is used. We're just always seeking that information, and it kind of seems like we keep hitting a brick wall. And so the more communication, the better. Some of you might be, I know that we're already speaking of other examples of collaboration between stakeholder groups and state agencies. For example, in citrus, we have the California Citrus Disease Prevention Program with CDFA. Secretary Ross chairs this group. You have stakeholders, folks from CDFA that are very participatory. It's been a very successful program, and it's, I don't know, I think it's a true case of how you can see a state agency working together with its stakeholders. You have examples within the wine industry as they're fighting the glassy-winged sharpshooter, examples with the air resources quality control boards. And we'd really like to see the State Water Board create a similar group, maybe not in the same legal function that we have with CDFA, but something perhaps on a more informal basis, but a group where ag stakeholders, leaders, and representatives have a direct interaction with leaders within the board here, and that meeting on a regular basis. And it seems that if there was a forum for discussion and exchange of ideas, I believe the tensions would ease, and we can begin to create a foundation for understanding, which I think is very much missing at this point. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Are you aware of the work in the cost of compliance work groups for the WDRs that Board Member Dodek helped start and staff has been working on? And in some of my other conversation, we were thinking that that's a potential forum to rejuvenate, to talk about these issues more broadly, not just in the context of fees, although they clearly, it has a relationship to it, both in terms of relationship and the ability to just talk, but also in kind of mutual understanding of the challenges.
I'm not directly involved with that, but I do know that others are, and I think that this could be a step in the right direction. We'd like to see as much momentum going that way as possible.
Thank you
Thanks.
very much. Lynn McBride, California Dairy Campaign.
Good afternoon. My name is Lynn McBride. I currently serve as Executive Director of the California Dairy Campaign. CDC is a grassroots organization of 200 dairy farmers throughout the state. All our members are family dairy operations. All have faced unprecedented economic challenges in recent years. They live and work on the dairy, and they understand the importance of protecting water quality. We appreciate the opportunity to speak today before the Water Board. We testify in opposition to the proposed increase in dairy permit fees that are being outlined today in item number 8. California Dairy Campaign is a member organization of Dairy Cares and supports the comments that coalition has already submitted in opposition to the proposed fee increase, again, outlined in item 8. The 2014 California Department of Food and Agriculture mid-year review recently indicated that 1,466 dairies remain in operation in our state, which is a more than 500, the number of 500 less than the year 2006. On a per hundredweight basis, California dairy producer prices rank last in the nation. Although dairy producer prices have improved, dairy income would need to remain a considerable amount above production costs for the foreseeable future in order to make up for the tremendous losses that dairy farmers have suffered since 2009. 2009 was the worst year by far, with the average income losses of more than $5 a hundredweight. The situation improved somewhat in 2011, but then deteriorated dramatically in 2012, with income losses of over $2 a hundredweight. The economic situation faced by California dairy farmers has again led to the loss and closure of more than 500 dairy farmers since 2006. And even though conditions have improved, a number of our members have chosen to close their operations. Many dairy operators in California no longer see a future for themselves as dairy farmers in the state. One of our board members, a longtime leader in our organization, decided to move to Oregon because he saw a much brighter future in Oregon than he did in California. To him and other dairy farmers who have left the state, it just doesn't make sense to operate a dairy here due to the fact that our state producer prices are the lowest in the nation, and the cost to operate a dairy in California, including all the regulatory costs that we're talking about here today, are some of the highest in the nation. And as you all well know, the closure of a dairy has a ripple effect on the local, regional, and ultimately state economy. Dairy farmers are price takers, not price setters. They are not able to pass on additional costs into the price they receive. The dramatic increases in permit fees last year and those proposed this year are not justified and will cause further economic harm throughout the state. The fees have quadrupled since 2006 and we believe are unjustified. Our dairy producer members spend time and significant resources to meet environmental standards for our state. The proposed increase will add additional costs to dairy producers who continue to struggle to make up for unprecedented economic losses. And dairy producers understand the importance of protecting water quality. They live and work on these dairies. And they devote considerable resources to hiring certified professionals to collect, test, analyze, and record data and submit their reports annually to the state, and have made really a commitment and an investment in this endeavor. However, they cannot afford to face significant fee increases year after year. Also, the uncertainty about feed availability due to the historic drought has created unprecedented economic challenges. Yesterday, a headline read...
Sorry to interrupt, but if you can wrap
Oh,
up,
I'm
because
almost
we have
done.
like 30 people
Oh, sorry.
who also want to speak. It's
Okay.
very good, but
Oh,
it's
two
just
more
there are about
lines.
30 people, so
Okay.
your time is up.
Okay. Yesterday, a headline read, California drought sends hay prices soaring, and that's one of many headlines that we're reading about just the, again, unprecedented repercussions. So to cut it short, again, we support the written comments submitted by Dairy Cares, and thank you for the time.
Thank you very much. JP Caviella, Dairy Cares, the aforementioned Dairy Cares.
I was hoping by now you had my name down, Felicia, but
I keep wanting to call it, there's a reason, sorry.
I'm going to
Caviella.
honor Tam's request that we revise our comments. So, I am JP Cataviella with Dairy Cares. I appreciate and support the comments of board members Didi Diadamo and Tam Dodek. And I think, Stephen, I'm not sure what exactly how supportive you are. So, but as we stated, and you do seem to understand our point, so I'm not going to go
We've
into
been
the
listening.
CDQAP issue here or the North Coast issue. But I would support what I believe is the recommendation there. On the fee issue, and someone made the comment earlier, I think in the at the staff level, that there was unanimous support of option 1A. That's not exactly right. We were unanimously opposed
To the other
messing
options. That's how I read
but
it.
any kind of fee increase
Right.
is not supported at this
Right.
point, and it really gets to just the common sense of it. It just seems like those fees go up so much every year, and folks can't keep up, and it's not cyclical like our prices. They're up and down, but this just is up and up. So that's a real issue. Last year, we were put on notice that you plan to raise our fees, but not by this much. So I want to make that point clear. And also, we made a good faith effort, and I believe Darren and the rest of the staff made a good faith effort to talk, but they're not empowered to really solve the problem. And I can do it in a very quick analogy. If I go with my buddy to go get a hamburger for lunch, and the bill comes and the bill is $500, it really isn't an issue of if I pay or if he pays or if we go Dutch. Why does that hamburger cost $500 is the issue. And the staff has only been able and only empowered to basically give us like, well, maybe these dairymen should pay more and these dairymen should pay less, or maybe you cap your discount program and then these guys over here play. But the bill is going up, it's too much, and it keeps going up too fast. That's the issue, so I hope that the stakeholder process that you're talking about will empower both the staff and perhaps others in the administration, because that's the other thing we get, is that, well, you know, we tried, but then the administration budget said this. So maybe that stakeholder process needs to be broader in government too, where, you know, you're bringing people over from the governor's office to talk about these issues and whether or not it's possible for businesses to bear these increasing costs, because we don't think it is. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I mean, I think the intention of this is to have a more substantial conversation. You'll have board member involvement, so that we can get to where it's not just the guys from administrative services with a limited range, but really talking about what are we doing, what are we trying to accomplish, et cetera. So
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mark McLaughlin, Director of Environmental Services, California High-Speed Rail Authority. Hello.
Hello. I'm not sure if this is working there. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and board members. I wanted to make a comment today on our Phase 2 MS4 permit, and for us, it's actually a milestone for our program as we have a statewide framework now and a statewide approach to our water quality. On our sustainability program, we have a lot focused on air quality, emissions, GHG, but water is our next focus as part of our water quality as it benefits the environment and what we're committed to. I want to compliment your staff in working with us in the past year to make a fairly streamlined effort for us to obtain permits, and more importantly to me is to have a criteria for our design builders to design to and to perform to. So we have accountability there to make sure that we can meet our specifications. So that's what I wanted to come and talk about today. It's an exciting time for us, and I think we look forward with our external affairs and yours to put our stormwater program out there as you help us develop it.
Great.
So that's my comment today.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you very much. Emily Rooney, President of the Ag Council.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman Marcus and members of the board. Like JP, I've substantially rewritten my comments in the last few minutes. I still stand by the written comments in our opposition to basically option 2A and the WDR fee increase as well. We still stand opposed to fee increases basically due to the cost of compliance for these different permits. And I've been here before to talk about the cost of compliance project, and I hope that this sort of reiterates the need to take a look at those compliance costs for all the permits. But I would like to talk about I want to reflect a little bit on the process improvement discussion that we had here. And I appreciate that discussion as a member of the stakeholder community that's been trying to get involved in the earlier time frames. You know, we've been dealt a number of prohibitions in our ability to collaborate. I'd like to give an example of what we see over at CDFA in regards to the animal health labs. They are facing budget shortfalls, and we have, I think it's a 5-year projection that they expect to have about an $8 to $10 million budget shortfall. But the difference is very clear. They have a stakeholder process. Staff comes and meets with my membership regularly, and we advise them and help work with them in terms of trying to find long-term solutions. We have not found the long-term solution yet, but we have been able to address it on a year-by-year basis. And I would envision hopefully a similar process here at the state board. You know, and this kind of goes to, you know, Darren's previous comments. I have never heard it that explicitly before on the give and take between the state board staff here and the administration and the folks at Department of Finance. So that was while frustrating, it was a little refreshing to hear that there's been an effort internally to make some progress. But if there are differences here at the State Water Board that we don't see at CDFA or the Air Resources Board or other agencies, let's surface what those issues are and let's try to come up with solutions. If it takes legislative fixes, if it takes regulatory fixes, let's recognize those and work on them. Because I really would prefer not to be here again next year. Just recognizing that even if staff comes back with a 0% increase for CAF and WDR next year, I'm blessed with a membership that I may be coming back for irrigated lands or another permit issue. So I really would like to see a long-term solution to this process. So thank you again for the time, and thanks for your collaboration.
Right, thank you for your time and leadership as well. Counting on it. Deanne Meyer, UC Davis. Dr. Deanne Meyer. Sir.
I think you have one more.
All my words. It's been a long day. Like the dairyman, I got up early to do some work in the field. Chair Marcus and members of the board, my name is Dr. Deanne Meyer, and I serve as the livestock waste management specialist for UC Davis. I've done this for the last 22 years. I conduct waste management research on livestock operations and provide outreach. I am the Environmental Stewardship Module Coordinator for the CDQAP, the California Dairy Quality Assurance Program. Since our inception, our motto has been compliance through education. Cal EPA and State Water are both original signatory partners dating back to the late 1990s. The state and regional boards have invested considerable human time, hours in this partnership. I believe the environment is better as a result of invested time. The CDQAP partnership works diligently and has provided more than 30,000 contact hours to dairy producers and more than 3,500 contact hours of classroom time to consultants statewide related to water quality issues. Presentations in local venues at no cost to dairy operators has been a win-win for the dairy producers, the regulators, and the environment. We continually update our 6-hour short course developed to address the top 20 problems water board inspectors had with dairy facilities. Through the partnership, we have collectively developed 9 separate curriculum for the Central Valley for its WDR, and 4, including one currently underway for the North Coast. For each curricula, staff from various partner groups identified what information was needed, how to best assist producers in record keeping and compliance documentation, and developed, tested, modified, produced, and disseminated information, again at the local level. CDQAP appreciates leadership as each of the associated regional boards provide staff to participate in these efforts. Time has been invested in regularly scheduled conference calls to aid flow of information and get correct answers to important questions. Information has been disseminated through popular press. Our collective commitment has been received with increasing enthusiasm by dairy producers. Producers' attitudes toward water quality inspections have improved markedly over the last 2 decades. Shortly after I arrived in my position, I attended a dairy producer meeting where an inspector from the Central Valley Regional Board was writing on the blackboard. It was 22 years ago. On the left side of the board, he wrote the word regulations. On the right side of the board, he wrote the word people. During the next 20 minutes, he articulated that regulations do not improve water quality merely by being passed. He stressed the fact that people making good and/or different management decisions improve water quality. Your inspector was right. Producers must manage their resources to be protective of water quality. Through the partnership, we all strive to provide current educational materials, information, templates, and tools to dairy operators and their consultants for continued environmental improvement. And I'm grateful to hear of the change suggested by board members this afternoon.
Thank you. Thanks for your work.
Oh, and I need my books. This is what we've given the dairy producers. A picture's worth 1,000 words in the Central Valley, in the North Coast.
All right, Dr. Michael Payne, also from UC Davis and the Dairy Quality Assurance Partnership.
Good afternoon, Chair Marcus and members of the board. I'm Michael Payne, a veterinarian at the University of California. In my capacity as director of the California Dairy Quality Assurance Program, I appreciate this opportunity to make comments related to the proposed change to the fee schedule of confined animal facilities. I've cut in half my comments, and I think you'll find my comments to be very supportive of some of your previous discussions. So this
Mm-hmm.
should be quick and painless.
Well, you have the time board to,
Sorry?
that's the judge, not me.
Yeah, I got you. Founded in 1997, when 15 state, federal, industry, and university organizations signed an environmental partnership agreement, the CDQAP has been serving the dairy industry and the people of California for 17 years. A much valued signatory to that agreement was the State Water Resources Control Board's then executive director, Walt Pettit, and of course, the current chair, Marcus. Dr. Meyer has already provided some detail on the program's continuing education, but briefly, since the program's inception, there have been more than 12,000 in-person producer program contents, and she's already mentioned 30,000 hours of in-person producer time. Skipped a bunch of stuff. The regulatory community has recognized the success of the program with U.S. EPA's Western Region Environmental Protection Award, and in 2007, the Governor's Environmental and Economic Leadership Award, GELA, the state's highest environmental honor. Most recently, the North Coast Board has passed a resolution in appreciation for the collaborative outreach on the new waiver and the producers' participation in that. We've, as an aside, we've leveraged $1.50 out of every $1 that's been provided by the dairy industry. That doesn't count in kind, and to amount to about $3 million in the first 13 years of the program. So this collaborative effort and funding has been and will continue to support our shared goals of regulatory compliance and environmental protection. So importantly to the board, retaining the current fee structure as proposed under staff's fee schedule, option 1A, would actually be revenue neutral to the board. And those are my comments.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you for your work as well. Denise Mullinex, Assistant Director of the California Dairy Quality Assurance Partnership.
Alrighty. Good afternoon, Ms. Chair, members of the board. My name is Denise Mullinex. I am the Assistant Director for the California Dairy Quality Assurance Program, or CDQAP, as we refer to it. You heard from my two colleagues earlier, so I will keep my comments brief. I've worked in this dairy industry now, both within the university and the private sector, for just under 20 years. And I've dedicated my career to education and support for continual on-farm improvement on dairy facilities. I originally came here today to talk to you a little bit and speak out against what was currently proposed at that time as the fee schedule that included the cap on the CDQAP certification. However, I really appreciate the comments that were made, and I'm encouraged by those, by the two board members, as I do think that we really do have some good momentum and incentives that are happening within the dairy industry and helping to move the industry forward on environmental stewardship. And in short, I think the fee cap would be the wrong direction, because I think it really would send the wrong message to the dairy producers and the dairy industry, and limit the program's ability to support all producers, regardless of size, in environmental improvement. So just a couple of words about, from a producer perspective, when they pursue CDQAP certification, that's not something that they take lightly, and it's not, it's not a small task. They choose to participate in the voluntary program because they want to show their commitment to the environment, and because there's an understood value for doing that. So the bar is high for certification, and we do decertify facilities for bad behavior, if you will. So, you know, a real outcome, a tangible outcome of CDQA pre-certification is that as we communicate with inspectors throughout the various regions up and down the state, is that they indicate that certified producers are in fact, they better understand the regulations, they're more cooperative and understand the expectations of inspectors. They maintain more current and organized monitoring and record keeping, and overall are just, you know, easier than their non-certified counterparts as far as undergoing regulation. So my experience has been that the cost of environmental compliance really does correspond to the size of the dairy. So the larger the dairies are, the larger their costs are for doing that. And that, you know, any cap would be a real concern because basically it would be an inequitable you know, fee then on dairy facilities across the board, and we would in fact be potentially hindering some of our most innovative and forward-thinking producers in doing that. And those are the guys that are really out there in the industry, and they're putting the money out there to test new ideas, new management, and we want to continue to incentivize that. So I really do commend what was recommended and would support the board in going with option 1A. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Rodney Camper, dairy farmer. We lost him. Save him. Oh, there he comes. Good.
Good afternoon, board. Appreciate the few minutes we can talk today. I'm a Fresno County dairy farmer. Been in dairy business our whole life. We've been in the Fresno County location for about 36 years. And we have mature cows just under 2,000, so we fall into that category. Not to repeat some of the comments here today, there have been very good comments. I agree that we should go with 1A and that those funds should be spread equally among them. I just say that the funding is too high. And I would like to have some real transparency on what is the true cost to run the dairy program. If I read the first page of the Section 8 papers today, your budget needs to go from 116 to 121 million dollars. We're running about 4% of the budget, and we're getting 10% of the $5 million increase, and I think that's a very heavy burden. And if the state of California collectively, not just the dairy industry, not just the other industries represented today, but all people in the state, why can Sacramento keep putting the burden on only those businesses and industries and so that are productive? The taxpayer coffers need to pay their portion of this whole budget and just quit passing it to other people down the line. And this really has to be straightened out. Thank you.
Thank you. I can't. Ray Veldhuis? Help me.
Ray Veldhuis, a dairy
Veldhuis,
producer.
I got close.
Good
Sorry,
afternoon,
thank you.
board. I'm a producer in Merced County along the Merced River. I'm a third-generation dairy farmer. One of the things I like to say is I'm a vice chairman of the Central Valley Groundwater Management Program, which we're doing the groundwater management part of. I probably spend 25% of my time volunteering either through stuff on the river, through water rights stuff in Merced County, or through groundwater stuff. I'm very passionate about water. I believe in it. But we can't succeed unless we have unity. We have to work together. Regulators can make all the regulations in the world, but unless you have people that buy in and you have a relationship, we're not going to have that. And to be good stewards, we got to continue on that relationship. And I do support the other option you talked about today, but we also need to look into it as we go forward and continue communication, continue working together with our leaders of our industry. That's the only way we're going to achieve our goals here. I've got a project I'm working on this year with, we're going to take 140 acres of corn ground and try and do drip tape on every other row and then try and flood irrigate with manure water to get our nutrient, to add agronomic levels of doing it, but also leaching less into the groundwater so we can keep that in the root zone, potentially increase the yield by 20 to 30%. So we'll be removing more nutrients from the field and have less leaching in the groundwater. Now, whether it works or not, I don't know, but it's first we have to start. And The guys who are in the Dairy Quality Assurance Program are the aggressors who are doing this on their own. They're not waiting for a regulation to force you to do it. We're stepping up and doing it, and for us to take a 90% fee increase is unfair. And if that stops a project like what I'm going to do, it's just going to stop the industry from moving forward in what your task is and our task is. And I think there are people with passion out there who believe in it, who want to make a difference. And we got to find that unity by continue to communicate and continue to work together. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. I think you want him on your committee. That's all I have to say. Yeah. Christopher Valadez? Oh, yeah, it's you. Hi. Thank you.
Thanks for the introduction. Apologize for my poor penmanship. Chris Valadez, representing
eyes, sorry.
now the California Fresh Fruit Association, formerly known as California Grape and Tree Fruit League. So pleasure. Thank you for providing us this opportunity today. Truncated our comments. First and foremost, thank to you, Board Member Diadamo, and to you, Board Member Dodick, on your recommendation that we have a early pre-budget discussion with affected stakeholders to analyze the fee schedules. You know, it's not only an issue of the fee schedule and the rate increases. From our perspective, which is the perspective of the stone fruit packing houses, which largely are affected by these fees within our industry, it's a comparison exercise. I mean, they're comparing this fee, which is the largest fee that they pay to any governmental agency outside of taxation, you know, outside of taxes, in comparison to what they pay to fees that are air quality related, DPR pesticide regulated, fees at the county level. This is the single largest fee that they pay. Just as a comparison, one of the, I don't know if it's second or third highest fee that these facilities may pay is in the order of $600 for a permit to operate a fumigation chamber that they have for stone fruit operations in order to fumigate the fruit. Again, that's air quality issue on that end, but when they see these fees and they're comparing it, they have a hard time understanding why this fee is where it's at. And we don't have the information to provide back to them because we haven't had these early conversations. So again, I thank you for your recommendation. We will strongly engage. Another area I'd like to touch on, and I'm thankful for Mr. Polimas's role up here in going over the differences in his role directly on behalf of board staff with the administration. I mean, there was a policy discussion, and quite frankly, he was honest with us today in saying he was shut down. They weren't going to have a further conversation with him. And I inferred something.
Well, it's less of a policy, it's just how can you talk about the budget?
Correct.
The budget is just a very confidential process in any administration at any level of government. I don't want people to read more into what he said than he said.
And as a stakeholder, I completely understand, and I would agree with your characterization to put a parameter around it. But what I infer from that, and this is my inference, is if we have those conversations with the Darrens of the world and others from your state staff, that allows us to step outside within the political arena and the policy arena to have those conversations with the administration and the legislature. Conversations that he shouldn't be having with them, that he can't have, but that we can from a political perspective. It gives us the opportunity to do that, and we're ready to do so because on behalf of our members, they see these fees, they see the rate of increases, and to them it's something that they believe is unsustainable. And so because we haven't had that process to date, but I think we will, and we'll engage it going forward, we stand in opposition to the current fee schedule specifically for the WDR 7.9% fee increase. But I do thank the two board members and the rest of the board who do agree but have yet to verbalize so support for that process, and we will be fully engaged to be there. Thank you.
We'll count on you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Roger Isom, President and CEO of the Western Agricultural Processors Association.
Well, thank you. You actually did my introduction for me, so I'll even cut my comments that much shorter. Roger Isom, Western Ag Processors. We represent tree nut hullers and processors, almonds, walnuts, pecans, and pistachios. First of all, I am going to cut my comments short. The process that you've laid out, at least in concept, is exactly what we're asking for, that we want that transparency. It's important to us for that discussion because we don't want to simply be told, here's our costs find a way to do it. We don't want to participate in a shell game where, okay, we'll cut you guys down, but we're going to increase the dairy guys, or, you know, we want it to be level. Now, you can increase the high-speed rail if you want, put all of it on them, I don't care, but not on the ag guys. And, you know, one of the issues with that is that our members have seen over 6 years, more than a doubling of the fee. And we have no way to pass along that cost. I can't charge more for my almonds or walnuts simply because the water board fees went up. It is what it is.
Right.
And so we've got to find some way to do it. And I think the best thing and the best point I can make today is comparisons. If I look at a couple of my plants, my members, one of my pistachio plants has 3 operations, and they pay over $40,000 in WDR fees. By comparison, when you add up all of their air pollution permit fees, their county hazard materials business plan fees, their DTSC fees, and that, it's less. Well, let me put it this way: the WDR fee is 2.5 times all other fees combined, and that may be the case. We don't know. We don't have enough information. But on the surface, that seems to be an issue. How can that be that much more? These other programs, whether it's the county or the air district, they receive no general funding. They're totally self-funded, have to find some way to do it. And so the example I would use is with the air district. One of the things that they have not raised their fees in 10 years. How do they do that? And one of the things that they do is they do have definitely a broad outreach program where they sit down with stakeholders, kind of what's been outlined here, and they say, look, this is what we have to do. Here's the plans, here's the rules, whatever it is. Here's the number of inspections we have to do. What things can we do to reduce either the time it's spent on an inspection or reduce the time processing a permit? And so what we've done is we've created things like training programs. I mean, I literally run a training program with air district engineers and inspectors, bring them out to our facilities so that they spend less time there because they understand what it is that they're doing. We train them on terminology and that cuts down the processing time for permits as a way to reduce that cost, some way to offset it. It's just an example. I don't know that there's things we can do here. My guess is there probably is. And quite frankly, there's other things that we do to try to find additional funding. We've gone back to D.C. with both the Air Resources Board and the Air District to lobby for more money. We've done that with the counties in trying to find ways on their programs. We've done the same thing with, sounds like I'm at 7-Eleven going in the door. But so that's my time to exit. But anyway, I just want to say that I appreciate the process. I think there's some opportunities there, and we are committed to trying to find that way. We don't support in any way the proposed fees increase that's put on the table now, but we do wholeheartedly support a better process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know from experience you're good at working on those processes, so thank you. Joy Seifert from Seifert Dairy. Can I, from a scheduling standpoint, before I realize now it's 1:30, and so here's going to be my suggestion to my colleagues. I think if people's blood sugar can hold out